Ah. Boy, 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 boy. Where are we? Oh, I barely even remember. Entering the world of El Poop with cheats enabled. I don't even remember why I had to have cheats enabled. Was that for the time? Yeah, it was for setting the time. That was why. So what do we do today? We just build things, keep expanding the house. I'm still scared to go out, but I'm not as scared as I was, because we're not playing on hardcore, we're just doing permadeath. Is that? Oh, it's one of those. Okay, it was one of those. Moth. It takes forever to sleep. It just speeds it up a little bit. There we go. Check on the cows. This one is done. So guys, you want some wheat? You want some wheat? I need a chair. Like there needs to be a chair here. Let's put the chair there. This is our chair. I'm a dwarf, so I can't reach it otherwise. Hey, you want some wheat seeds? You want some wheat seeds? You're just a chicken, you don't get wheat seeds. Right. Now we do have grass there. I don't like these. Oh, there. You want to die? This is 5 wide. So how would I design this? Should we just do some building? Let's go get some blocks. The blocks should be... not those. There, bricks. Deep slate polished. We're gonna have to make shitloads of deep slate bricks. Where do we make those? Is that in here? Deep slate bricks. Yes. Wait. You have to polish them first? Okay. Alright, there. I don't know how many of those we'll need, so... Now that I think about it, it's actually kind of weird that we're moving up to go inside the Dwarven Kingdom. But... I think it'll be fine. Here, though, I want this to be polished as well. Or I want it to be the white cobblestone on the way out. Do I really want to use my diamond pickaxe here? I don't think so. This needs to go like that. Or more even. Like that. I don't know if I have enough cobblestone bricks though. Wait, what are those made of? What are the white ones made of? This is cobblestone. What is that? Diorite. Right. Do I have diorite? Diorite, yeah, we have tons of diorite. We even have polished diorite. We even have polished diorite stairs. Like so. Then what is this? In. Well, now we want polished. We need polished cobblestone, and that's a problem. Because to make cobblestone bricks, smooth stone. Can you turn those into bricks? Bricks. Stone bricks. Stone. No, you need stone. And to make stone, you need to go in here. That. Do that. Your recipes unlocked? Oh. Gunpowder. Bone meal, sulfur, charcoal. Okay. I don't think you... Yeah. Well, that's gonna take forever, so... Build the walls, I guess. Building level up. I don't want to go this far up. Where do I want the gate to be? I kind of want the gate to be like here. So maybe we'll build it like out here. Not sure. Here maybe? No! I guess the outmost section should be polished. Uh oh. Looks like there are demons out right now. Yeah, it's raining, that's why. What do you need to make... Isn't there a... There's like a furnace for making rocks. Cauldron. Crafting table, crate. Cutting board. Furnace. Maybe we can check using the furnace. There's 30 pages. Holy shit, dude. Jukebox. I don't even know if I can make it. Block of silver. Smoker, smithing table. Stove, stone cutter. It's not the stone cutter. Smithing table again. Wood-fired oven. Man, it wasn't there. If we type furnace, make a furnace, and then you can press U on it. Blast furnace, smoker, minecart with furnace, kiln. That's the one, I think. It needs bricks. Does that have to be clay bricks? But I think we have clay. I saw it somewhere. There, clay ball. God damn. What was that? There. Cringe-worthy things? Why? Stone bricks. For a grime, yeah. Get arrested for playing music outside of the school. All right. And then what? Did you get arrested? Or did you just accidentally play teenager music for teenagers? Oh! You bitch! But you did. So it wasn't that cringeworthy. It wasn't even that bad. I've heard worse. It's fine. Don't worry about it. There. Now we have to... This is the tricky part, right? Like, I have a bunch of dirt and stuff here. In the way. I don't know what to do about that. Feel guilty? Whoa! Whoa! Fuck yourself, dude. I hate these guys. They're like impossible to attack. They don't have a normal movement pattern. Where? Fuck. Oh, oh! We're gonna die. I'm gonna die. Oh! Shit, dude. Oh, that was so close. He broke my golden helmet. Where's my helmet? He broke my freaking golden helmet. And without my golden helmet, I go blind and die. Yeah, glucose does help. Now we're eating fructose right now. Alright. Danger averted for now. Do I have another shovel on me? The answer to that is a no. Alright, well, whatever. Maybe not whatever. Gonna need some shovels for this. There's part of it. There's that. That's what I was looking for. There. Nice to have a car again? I'm sure. I haven't had a car in 10 years. I do miss having one though, but it's pretty expensive too. long as you have a license, yeah, I mean, it's like the bare minimum to have a car. I would not suggest it otherwise. Alright. I'm not really sure how I want to design this. Maybe none of Stockholm population have a license. I think that is very much not true at all. Well, that may be true that they don't have they don't have a license, but they're definitely not driving around without license. But yeah, it's I can imagine that it might be getting scarcer. Now I kind of want some sort of windows, but I want to have tinted windows. Now the question is, did you finish coding this stuff? No, but I did make very good progress. And now I kind of want a gate here that's... How do I do it? Maybe I should expand it a little bit more. Because I figure if I want to have a gate, then I need to be able to push it up and down. And... Zombies. But maybe we'll just put some iron doors there for now. I don't know what this effect is, but... There's some effect that has... There's like a motion blur thing. I don't really know what to make of it. I see it when enemies are walking around and stuff too. There's like no special thing like that anywhere. This doesn't even have a slider. I also spent the whole day working for other people. Hmm. You enjoy it? It's very painful though. I don't know. I feel like I'm in pain. Color grading? What does that even mean? I don't even know what that is. Videography stuff? Alright. Now here is a huge, huge issue. This little corridor that we made is misaligned. It should be aligned to here. One, two, three, four. So that means we have to dig it out. 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm sure we'll find some stuff there. Here's some copper. Contraband police the game. What? Never heard of this. Been waiting for this for like 3 years. Alright. Is it any good? That's the question. I saw they were releasing Cataclysm Dark Days Ahead on Steam. So I got a little bit excited and went and checked if they had fixed or finally implemented Z or 3D vision, and they haven't. It's been like 3 years since I tried it the first time, and it was still in experimental. It's the #1 most vital feature in the entire game. Still not there. Hello, cows. Is your stable too small? No, no, go out! Go back in! Oh, heck. I'll just have to kill the guys that went out. I have to die. I got excited. Yeah. But then I was disappointed, as always. Alright. What do we have here? Let's go put some stuff away, because there's things on the ground. Goddamn moths. Leather, raw beef. Is this a food box? What am I putting here? This is the food box. I don't think No Man's Sky came back from the grave. However, they did. I strongly support them for the amount of time they put into actually patching the game after release, and actually having a decent monetization scheme, which is just sell the game for money instead of selling every single DLC or expansion. But I still think that the game is like the same as when it came out. Like, that's the problem I have. I could play patch 1 and the newest patch and there would be no difference. More or less. Because they're just adding things that, like... I don't know. It could have been a good game. Yeah, absolutely. Bricks. Kiln. Where's my... I need cobblestone. Cobblestone. Furnace. Kiln. I wouldn't mind trying it again soon, to be honest, but... I just know that there's not going to be anything to do in the game. Ugh. The inventory system is so trash. Maybe if there was a mod for changing how you get more inventory slots. Maybe that. I'm tired, but I want to start writing the parser. Well, not all days have enough energy to do things, unfortunately. Now... Too hard? Like Deus Ex style? Hitching a ride? Huh? This guy's flying on me? He's riding me? What do you mean Deus Ex style? Oh, you meant... Oh, right. I'm following now. Writing the parser is hard. I know exactly what you mean. That's why I'm playing Minecraft instead of writing my Raycaster. I'm still a little bit too tired for that. But the problem with... The problem with No Man's Sky is that to unlock inventory space, all you do is you go to a new system. So when you start playing it, like, either you like get a mod that unlocks everything right away, or you find a mod that makes you able to just buy more slots everywhere. Because the way it works is you go to a new system, go into the station, get your upgrade for the inventory. Then you go out, you summon the multiplayer hub, go in there, get the upgrade there, and then you go to the next galaxy, and then you just do that. Like, that's the start of the game. You just do that until you have enough slots to feel happy. I can't say I really enjoy it. Because it's not like you save up money. Like, that's not how it works. It's not like I save up money and I earn the inventory slots. No, it's literally just go to the next station and just do that. Do I have any iron? Steel, iron. We have one iron. Iron nugget. That's not iron. Do we have wood? It doesn't look like wood. 5 jungle logs. That's not wood either. Right, go to bed. It just has to be something that you work towards. But that's also a big issue with the game. You don't work towards anything. You just start it and they just give you everything. Like right away, you get a ship instantly. You get a base for free. You get a fucking cruiser for free. You get That's my problem. Especially the cruiser part. Like, the only way I can think of not having to, like, get it that way is to, like, just not take it. And I don't like solutions like that. Yeah. The problem is that the procedural stuff is just, it's not actually good. Because they haven't procedurally generated anything that matters. They just have a bunch of procedural creatures, so unless things have changed, like, it's not like there are any cities or like, there are barely even any bases or anything like that to find. And the animals don't matter. And one of the biggest issues as well is that resources respawn. And you can teleport anywhere very easily. That's my #1 issue. So, for example, to fuel your suit and to fuel the ship, you need resources, right? But if you find uranium somewhere, you find a patch of uranium, that patch, if it's one of the, like, you can find metal in the ground, right? But you can also find special, like, unique things. There's like a special plant or something that has uranium in it. That respawns. And it gives you shitloads. So if you find that, all you need to do is just put down a base computer. And then you can just teleport there every single time you run out of fuel, and you just go there and pick up the fuel. Like it's like going to the grocery store. It's just it ruins the game. It's exactly like playing the forest. In the forest, turtles respawn in the same place every day. So you go there, you kill the turtle, it gives you a turtle shell. The turtle shell lets you gather water. So you have infinite water and you have infinite food from the turtle every single day, because it always spawns in the same day every single morning. Like it's a very important detail, but it's unfortunately overlooked. Now, how far out do I need to dig? Where are we going? This is the middle one, there. So from there, it's 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah. Yeah, I was wondering about that. Like, if they had changed that so that they actually spawn. In that case, Sons of the Forest might be cool. Because I honestly didn't mind the game. The only thing that was a big problem was that, and the fact that I was playing on hard, so every single monster was a fucking bullet sponge. Those were the only two things that made me stop playing it. Otherwise, I didn't mind it, to be honest. It was very, 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 very labor intense to build a palisade, but it was still, like, okay. The monsters were not very easy to kill with a spear, though. Did not work. Where are we? There. I mean, that can be it. That can be enough. As long as they just improve the original, I think that's still good enough. Innovation in the modern day, I think is less important. As long as the original game is decently advanced, just making the same thing but better is okay in my book. But I do appreciate when people try to improve a genre. Hello, XVG, how's it going? There are a lot of genres that have never really changed much. I mean, it depends on what you're looking for, right? Change for change's sake isn't good. People never listen to me. Like I used to be in some game dev circles, but people never listen to me. And what is even more annoying is whenever I talk to just other gamers about anything, they always disagree with me. And I don't know, I don't think I am wrong at all, but it's hard as well. For example, just the other day, I was arguing with people over like, well, it wasn't a big argument. It was just a quick exchange, but like the complexity of Skyrim versus Morrowind. I always see people complain about, oh, Skyrim is a dumbed down version of Morrowind, but it's not. Like it's literally the opposite. And I don't know. Because like what people get attached to, it's not like smart gameplay mechanics or whatever. Like I don't even know. It's usually just like some small meme that they kind of like and just get attached to. And some people kind of just want to play that game over and over and over again. And for those people, if you make the same game but with like more depth and stuff like that, they're just gonna not like it. Like all it takes for Skyrim to be viewed as less advanced is like the lack of spears. Like they removed spears. This game is now... the game is now dumbed down. And it is now less enjoyable. Same thing with like Morrowind being dumbed down from Daggerfall. And the reason it's dumbed down is because in Daggerfall you can learn languages. But the languages don't do anything. They're like completely useless dog shit. And it's the same thing with like Morrowind. It's like you've got stats, but okay, like who gives a shit? It doesn't really affect the game if you think about it, but the fact that they're there is what makes it like feel like it's more advanced, even if it isn't in reality. Because it doesn't really affect your build in any way, because you just naturally get the stats regardless, so it doesn't really matter. And okay, in the end, all it affects is like a little bit how much damage you do. I don't know. What do we have here? Gunpowder, ash, trash. Same thing with Final Fantasy games. People just want to play Final Fantasy 1 forever. We got the steel pickaxe. Do I have any sticks at all? Well, I need to go out and... But also, some people just don't really want more gameplay depth. Like some people, and I find that to be a more acceptable stance generally. Like some people argue with me about like the depth of Diablo 2, like Diablo 2 having good deep gameplay, which is total bullshit. But if we then argue instead, I like Diablo 2's simplicity. Like, I mean, who can argue with that? Like, all right, fine, that's okay. But yeah. Read out on other stuff. It's not just contraband anymore. One thing I have learned over the years is that whenever you play a demo of something, or you play a beta, the biggest copium ever is maybe they'll add more before release. No. They won't. What's happening to the tree? Oh, it was already destroyed or something? Strange. We need to plant more trees though. We're gonna run out. But one very important thing to remember as a game developer is that gamers' opinions are generally not that important. Because the average person does not think outside the box at all. And the only like frame of reference they have for what is good design is whatever they have played before. So before they actually have like the systems placed in front of them, most people have a really hard time to actually have a valid opinion about it and like think about it in a way that makes any sense. Most people can't even figure out how to improve on the Final Fantasy 1 genre. There are so many people that I talk to, like they don't know. Like, how would you improve Final Fantasy or Wizardry or anything? You can't do it. And usually it just ends up being like, just add like a cool attack or something. I don't know. Add persona features. Even though Persona is literally Final Fantasy 1. Or worse. Freeze! what I would like to see in a JRPG style game is a snake. I don't want to get bit by a snake. Also, we're basically dying here. First of all, moving away from random encounters, but tons of games have already done that. It's honestly just a very small fraction of games that do random encounters nowadays, which is fine, but it's also the... what should I say? The size of each encounter. In typical JRPGs, you have tons of encounters all the time. There's barely like 20 seconds between each encounter. And once you're in the encounter, you kill it in like 3 turns. And that's it. And then you get your XP. So there's no time and no room for any kind of mechanics. Like you can't have an enemy that can do something and you have to like react to it or whatever. The only thing that's gonna happen at most is that the enemy gets like 1 turn, they poison you, and now you have to use an antidote after the battle is over. Hello Shadow Turtle, how's it going? The average JRPG is literally just an attrition-based game design. You just go in and... where the fuck am I, dude? That's a construction, but where am I? There, that's a good landmark. I've not played any games. That's a good thing to have done as a game developer. If you haven't played any games, then you'll probably end up remaking something from 1998 or earlier. But you see, Octopath Traveler is also not complex. It's just... Octopath Traveler is Final Fantasy 1. I've talked about this extensively on Twitter before, and I got really angry people who were angry at me. Octopath Traveler, Persona, both are literally Final Fantasy 1. What is it called? Well, any Final Fantasy Tactics game, Final Fantasy 1, Tactics Ogre, Final Fantasy 1, and the reason they're Final Fantasy 1 is because there's no real interaction between you and the enemy. And like the only thing that happens is enemy does health damage or enemy applies poison, basically. And you react with that with healing and remove poison. Now, the only other mechanic is elemental weakness. And that's Persona, the only mechanic is elemental weakness. Octopath Traveler, the only real mechanic, elemental weakness. Because the only choices that you make in the game for what you're going to do is what is the enemy's elemental weakness. And then you press that button. And then that's it. Like, that's the whole gameplay loop. There's no more depth to it at all. In Octopath Traveler, it's just more convoluted. Like, that's it. It's just, instead of the enemy being red, and you use ice on it, because it's red, and you know that fire enemies are weak to ice, or in Final Fantasy, you can typically learn patterns that they have in the series. So you can have, like, frogs typically weak to ice, robots, either weak to lightning or absorb lightning. You know, those kind of things. And you can learn that over the course of the series, right? But the only thing it boils down to is use blue spell on red enemy. And that is it. And Octopath Traveler does the exact same thing, except now you have to use 5 colors on one enemy before you can, like, hurt it. Like, like they just put up, like, barriers in front of the enemy in Final Fantasy 1. That's all they did. And all they managed to achieve with it is Final Fantasy 1 with hoops to jump through. So the gameplay is just worse. So Octopath Traveler, worse than Final Fantasy 1, design-wise. Persona is exactly the same. It is worse than Final Fantasy 1 design-wise. Because in Persona, it's the same thing. Enemies have elemental weaknesses. That is the whole game. But the difference here is that in Final Fantasy 1, if you use a fire spell on an ice enemy, it'll take twice as much damage. That is it. That's the end of the complexity of the game. But in Persona, the enemy will... If the enemy is weak, it'll take 1.5 times more damage, and you get another turn. And then you do it again. So they take even more damage. Or you use another element to get all of the enemies to be stunned. Because they also get stunned. So it's like the effect of doing the mechanic is like 4 or 5 times higher, because then you also get the all-out attack when everyone is stunned, which does, you know, like pure true damage or whatever. And so you get like rewarded on multiple different tiers for doing this correctly, but it's still just Final Fantasy 1. And the reason it's worse is Persona 5 is the worst game in the series. And the reason for that is because in Persona 4 you have 4 elements? 5? I'm not sure. 4 or 5 elements. And the enemies in Persona are different from Final Fantasy games, in the sense that you can't visually determine what kind of element they are. Like, almost no enemies in the entire game, you can learn what their elements are. Because, you can, but the only way to learn that is to basically memorize the entire Pokédex. So you have to memorize the Pokédex, and you know this enemy is weak to air. But there's no like actual logical reason for it to be that, except that that's what it is, right? So you can't learn patterns. You can't learn this enemy is red, so I use blue. Or this is a lizard, so it's gonna be weak to this or that. So Persona's gameplay is every single encounter, you start with a random element and you use the AoE spell, and then you see if they all get stunned. If not, then you use the next element, and then you see if they all get stunned. And then that just repeats until you've gone through all the elements and they all got stunned. And then you can remember that for the next battle for that dungeon, right? So you can you learn it for the dungeon. And Persona 5 is worse because all it added was more elements. So the only thing it changed gameplay-wise was that the average length for stunning all the monsters and getting an all-out attack is longer. So it just... Like, Persona 4 was already just Final Fantasy 1, but worse. And Persona 5 just exacerbated the entire problem. And it's just... It just makes no sense. I don't get it. It's weird. So, where are we? One of the few games, there are a very, very small handful of games that I played the JRPG-wise. Hand Simulator? What the fuck is Hand Simulator? Super Seducer 2? What kind of games are you playing? Homie played 44 hours of Counter-Strike? Damn. RPG Maker. Oh. Let's start some things here. Can we make jungle logs there? I need charcoal. Oak log. And what I'm looking for in a JRPG to say that this is a better game or this is deeper or whatever is forcing me to think ahead, plan ahead. Like there has to be some forethought for what I'm doing other than just blindly smash this button forever, over and over. Disgaea, also Final Fantasy 1. The only difference in Disgaea really is the lift command. And the lift command is fun. I mean, I can't play Disgaea anymore because I'm not an anime dude in that sense. I was when Disgaea 1 came out, and 2 and 3. But not anymore. What am I making there? Need more cobblestone. And there are very, very, very few JRPGs that do this. Usually, all they do is just convolute everything. And they just stack systems on top of each other that just don't really do anything. It's like, oh, now you can like transform into this thing for 10 frames if you've done this thing and that thing, and you have to pull cards and blah blah blah. And usually it's just not actually any deeper. It's usually just convoluted. Like, dare I say it, Neptunia games, for example, I think they do a bunch of stuff like that. Lots of modern, like, turbo weeb games do this. And it's just, it doesn't really do much. Trails in the Sky, also. Like, their systems are like borderline if they really add anything. See, Trails in the Sky could have been cool, in my opinion. To some degree. If they had separated the super from skills. But the fact that the super and the skills use the same resource makes the game complete trash. Pickaxe. What else can we put away? Lots of stuff. There. Because the fact that the super uses the same resource as your normal skills, that means that in order to be allowed to use your normal skills, you either have to be at maximum, it's called CP by the way, craft points. So you either have to be at maximum craft points, then you get to use one skill, and then you have to replenish it so that you have your super up. next turn, so that you always have your super in case you need it. Either that, or you just use your super, right? But then you don't have any craft points, and then you have to start building again. So you can't use your abilities because you're building craft points. So the skills don't exist. Like, that's the problem. You need to always have your super up, because the super is the best skill. So using your skills, unless it's like extremely necessary, like you have a heal or something, or whatever, is just bad. So all you get to do when your super is down is just press attack or use spells. And that's what it boils down to. You just spam spells, pretty much. Unless you have a specific build for high auto attack damage. Like you can do with the red hair guy in Trails. That's how I tried playing him, at least. So see what I'm saying? Like, if they had just separated the CP points from the super, you could have a loop that's more about you have to do something in between using your skills to get your resources back, and then you get to use your skills, and then you also eventually get your super, and that would have actually been relatively, like, somewhat fun. But they didn't do that, so the game is Final Fantasy 1 again. Except now you have an interrupt button. And the interrupt button isn't bad, because you can react to what's happening with it, which is kind of neat. So it's like one step above Final Fantasy 1. But that's where they limited themselves. And yeah. Super dumb. FF10 super bar? Well, I mean, we can argue what's worse forever. But I will say that, like, it's all bad, more or less. FF10 super bar? I don't know. Isn't that just like a limit break, though? I don't particularly like the limit break system, but it's at least, you know, a fluff thing that's kind of neat. Like, things can be cool, even if they don't have any depth. I can appreciate that myself. Like, limit breaks are cool. And cool is good. But a limit break is still not a mechanic. Like... Like, it doesn't change anything. It's literally just attack, but it does shitloads of damage, and that's it. And same in Final Fantasy VI. All your characters have skills, right? And that is not... I like that. All your characters are unique, they have abilities, and it's just a lot more interesting than just characters having attack and spells. And the abilities do a lot. Like, Sabin just annihilates the whole screen. And Edgar having, you know, all kinds of cool tools that you can find and discover, and learning Mog dances and whatnot. But again, none of them change the depth of the gameplay. In fact, it kind of makes it less deep. But that's a balance issue. Like, in... if you're playing with Sabin, like, what do you have? He has attack, he has magic, and he has blitz. The only reason to not use blitz is that you suck at the inputs. Because you don't know the secret trick to it. And if you do know the blitz, then each of Sabin's turns is just a free AoE spell. Or a free, like, single target damage, defense ignoring magic attack that just does 9,999 on every single enemy in the entire game always. So it's just like, Okay, he gets free spells that just kill everything on the screen. Okay, great. Like, that's what the entire mechanic actually boils down to. And most of the characters just have dog shit mechanics that don't actually... Like, they're worse than attacking or just using magic, so they don't exist. Like, Setzer, using slots with Setzer is a complete waste of time. Even though it is kind of neat, I guess. But like, there's not a single mechanic that has ever been added to the Final Fantasy franchise that actually changes any of the depth of the game, because again, there has to be some interaction between the player and the enemy in some meaningful way. And I can give you an example of that. In Grandia, you have an additional aspect of the characters moving around on the map, and you still have like an action bar, kind of like in Final Fantasy, where you know the characters move along it, and when you get to a certain point, you get to attack. But what they have that is unique to them is that once the enemies get to a certain point in their action bars, you can tell which character they're targeting. And you can also, when they get even further into their bars, you can see which attack they're planning on doing. And based on this information, the information of where your character is positioned, and you can also learn how fast your character attacks. And you then also have two different attacks. You have a combo attack, which just does a lot of damage and hits multiple times, and then you have a critical hit. And it's just not like other games where a critical hit does just more damage, but it's rather one slow, heavy hit. And what it does is it knocks back their gauge, so they don't get to act as fast. And if they are in their action part of the gauge, or when they're when they are in their action gauge part, because certain abilities have certain usage times. So you get to pick your ability, and then you have like a charge time, or you have to walk to the enemy, and you have like a swing animation. And if you hit with the critical while they are in their action part, you'll cancel their input, and they get knocked back even further. And then they have to wait again until they get to input another input. And what this system means is that there's a lot of actual back and forth between the player and the enemies, because you can plan ahead, like how far is it, like can I run fast enough to get to that enemy before they get to use whatever ability that they're about to use. Like, you see that they're going to use a spell. Okay, now I have a little bit more time, and I really want to interrupt that spell, so, you know, let's make sure we time that correctly. And you can use other characters that might have, like, shittier critical attacks, and you can combo that enemy to, like, keep them occupied a little bit, because every time they get hit, they... you know, their action bar gets interrupted a little bit. And then you have another character that, you know, you can time and go in and do a critical with. So there you have an entire system that has a lot of interaction between the player and the enemies. Now it's not actually that deep, but it's a little bit. And that is already a lot more interesting than like any other system where there's you just press buttons, like Wizardry or pretty much any of those kind of dungeon crawlers. You know, like Etrian Odyssey. I don't know if Etrian Odyssey gets any more interesting later, but that's what it feels like. I played it a little bit. Pickaxe. Need more pickaxes. okay, we need to dig this even deeper down. But yeah, the Final Fantasy games, when it comes to like their limit breaks and stuff, they absolutely have. I don't think it's a mechanic that matters, first of all, but they definitely do have different. Like in some cases, it's more well implemented than others. Final Fantasy VII is probably the best one, more or less. And the reason for that is that it's just a gauge, and you use it whenever you want. And that's it. But I don't know I don't remember exactly how it works in 10, if you can save it between battles or not. But like in 8, it completely breaks the game. Like the 8 is completely ruined by the limit break system. Because you can do limit breaks every single turn in the game. Which is not good. Let's just put it that way. Because it's based on your health, right? So what you can do is with the junction system, you can equip spells to stats. Oops, we don't want to go there. But you can equip spells to stats. And certain spells are better for certain stats. Like fire is better for attack, and you know, maybe you have Quake or something is probably better for defense. But Cure and Life spells are better for health. And if you have, again, if you have low health... No, that's bullshit. It doesn't matter, because the game is completely broken anyway. What you do is you... almost right away, you can learn an ability that can convert items into spells. And the way the game works is that you don't have spells like you do in other games, where you know Cure and you use Cure for 8 mana, but rather you have a stock of Cure, and you draw them from enemies, you steal them from enemies, or you turn items into them, which is like the main way you should do it, because drawing is stupid. But what happens is, because you can get the strongest Cure in the game, Curaga, after like 2 hours in the game, and you can get a lot of it, but you don't need that much either. Then you junction that to health, and that means that you go from like 600 health to 4,000 health, maybe, or even 2,000. It doesn't really matter that much. And then what happens is that as your health goes up, your max health becomes higher, but your base health stays where it is. And because you go from like 700 to 4,000, you're now at low health. And the way the limit system works in Final Fantasy VIII is that every single time it becomes your turn, you have a certain percentage chance of your attack becoming a limit break. And you can see that in the bar, or in the menu, because you get a little arrow next to attack, and there's a sound that plays. So the lower your health, the higher the chance is. And if you have yellow health, which means like below 25 or something, 25%, you always get it. And what you can do also is you can switch to another character using the triangle button. And even if even if you only have one character, you can switch, and it re-rolls the limit break every single time. So what you do is you equip one guy with Curagas in his main health slot, and then you just don't heal him, and then you go into combat, and every single turn you have a limit break. And then you also, of course, just put like max damage into his damage slot. And then you kill every single boss in the entire game in one turn. Oh, that's why the game is so good. It is completely broken. And it's like the most basic thing as well. Like, you'd be hard pressed to not find this. Like, you just do. Like, you just notice it. I didn't even read that anywhere. Like, it just kind of happens. Oh, it's such a good game. But then you have Final Fantasy IX. And Final Fantasy IX arguably has an even worse limit break system. Because there, you have a limit break meter, right? Just like in the other games. But the difference is that here, you automatically enter limit break state. Like there, it's a state. It's not like you use a limit break. It's more like Super Saiyan mode. So you go into Super Saiyan mode. But this always happens at the end of combat. Like you have one enemy left, he has like 3 life. He hits a character. Oh, he went into Super Saiyan state. Automatically, without any input. And now his limit break is just wasted. And you'll have to wait another 10 battles until it happens again. So it's just like complete random trash that always happens when you don't want it to happen. What do we have here? Charcoal. Yeah. Yeah. So 10's limit break system is fine. Like it's just like Final Fantasy VII, I think, except that you do have to unlock new ways to enter limit break, because you I think normally it's just take damage, but you can unlock other ways to go into Super Saiyan mode. Well, it's not a mode there, it's just special summon, or like double summon or something like that. I don't remember. No, it's if you overdrive with Yuna, for example, then the summon gets full limit break bar as well, and then you can just limit break with the summon. That's how that works. But, yeah. But then they started moving away from the systems because they couldn't... See, that's what grinds my gears. They made the same game over and over and over. Like, they barely ever really tried to fuck with the format. They made the same game. Final Fantasy 1. Final Fantasy 2 was a little bit different, but it was still basically the same game. The only difference is that they added a Morrowind leveling system, which was retarded. Absolute dog shit. But then in 3, all they did was added jobs. But it doesn't really do anything. Like, it's just a, like, fluff thing. It's still kind of neat, but the gameplay-wise, it doesn't change anything. Like, it's literally just, like, changing a character. Like, it doesn't matter. And in 4, they opted for making unique characters. And they give you 5 characters. And the characters actually have some abilities, but none of them matter. Like, Cecil has a guard ability, useless, you just attack with him. Use Cure, you know, outside of battle, because his Cure is too dog shit to use in battle. Other characters don't really have anything, like you have Throw with Edge, he has some spells, you know, it's just basic, you just use abilities. In 5, jobs. But it's still the same, just abilities, doesn't matter. 6, abilities. We talked about that. they don't matter. 7, they, in my opinion, they made the game more boring because now you have 3 characters, and like you're kind of forced to have everything on everyone, like because you have the materia system. Like the materia system has some depth, for sure, but it still doesn't change the game. Like, it's still the same. There's still no choice in combat. It's literally just how much damage you do. But there's a little bit of a metagame inside the materia system, because you can, you know, you can combine things a little bit, but it's not really that deep, to be honest. As a concept, it's kind of neat. Like you can take a fire spell and you can combine it with another support materia to make it do hit all, for example, but there are so few things you can do with it. Like there are like almost no combinations that matter. So in practice, it just kind of doesn't really do anything. Except that you can like I do agree that useless skills are worse. So like what can you do with it? You can like you can make your attacks do poison, for example. If I remember right, poison is like super OP in Final Fantasy VII. So there, like, that's really, really strong. Just being able to always apply, or always have a chance of applying poison every single time you attack, is pretty strong. But, again, it just adds a little bit of fluff and, like, a little bit of build creation outside of combat. Doesn't change combat at all. 8, it doesn't add anything, really, at all. All it does is give you a draw command, and the draw command is really just you have to use it on every single boss and draw all their abilities to make sure that one of them isn't a Guardian Force, which is a summon or an Esper or whatever you want to call it in the other games. So you can equip it and use it. And if you didn't check, then you've like that was a missable. You can't ever get that again in the game. 9. Also didn't add anything. The only thing 9 really changed, I think, is that they went back to 4 characters, and they made steal worse. Because the main character is a thief, so they changed the steal mechanic a little bit, a teeny tiny bit. So what they did was they made enemies have 3 items instead of 1. And there's a common item, an uncommon item, and a rare item. And the rare item is always a really, really good equip that is like, you can't get it until like 3 or 2 towns ahead. So you can steal that. But steal is a retarded mechanic. Because all it does is you have to waste a turn. You have to waste a turn. Is there a skeleton inside my base? You have to waste a turn to try to get an item. And the item has a 0.5% chance of being stolen. Something like that is like a ridiculously low chance. So you have to stand there and waste 200 turns on average to steal the rare item. And if you get the passive, like you can equip passive abilities on the characters that change them a little bit. But again, it doesn't affect anything. You can change that so that it's like 100 times on average to get the rare item. So they're like promoting you to steal items and press steal, which is the worst gameplay imaginable. Because it's like, yeah, we're gonna design this game to be so unfun that you want to kill yourself. Oh my god. Holy shit. And then we get to 10. Let me just focus on making some pickaxes here. Make us 6 pickaxes. Now 10 is possibly one of the worst games. For many, many reasons. A lot of people love it. Because they think it's the best game. They are wrong. Now, am I done here? We kind of have to dig this out, right? I mean, we can just make stairs there or something, like whatever. Okay, so what we need to do now is put down floors. No, we need to put down torches. That's why the skeleton spawns. I'm talking about Final Fantasy. Hello, Cthulhu. But actually, what we were talking about was JRPGs. Or we were talking about game design, really. And then we came into JRPGs, because it's one of my favorite genres, except that I hate every single game in the genre. And we were talking about really how to expand the gameplay and why they are not very deep. But basically Final Fantasy X, the reason it is exceptionally dogshit where are my thingies? Style right. I want polished cobblestone. Where are those? The reason it's exceptionally dogshit is there's some stone bricks, not very many though. Is because, and it's a little bit nuanced, I think, but they went back to pure turn-based. It doesn't have the ATB system that was like the signature of the Final Fantasy series. And I honestly didn't mind that at all. It was kind of neat to not have to be stressed out all the time at the same time. Plus you could see enemies. Like you could see when an enemy's turn was gonna come and stuff like that. Which kind of lets you plan a little bit what you're gonna do. Because that'll tell you, like, do I have time to heal right now? You know? For example. But the problem there is that the only thing that amounts to is that there's like 2 abilities in the game that can knock back an enemy's turn a little bit now and then. Usually it doesn't work very well on bosses, of course, so it's completely useless. But the encounter rate in Final Fantasy X is absolutely ridiculous. It's the worst encounter rate in a Final Fantasy game by far. You can barely take 3 steps without a random encounter. And the random encounters are super lame. There's like nothing to them. Every encounter has like 4 or 5 basic archetypes. And these archetypes are looped throughout the entire game. There's like an element, there's a lizard, there's a bird, there's a little guy with the shell, you know, stuff like that. And none of it really matters. Die right, that's what we want. We want die right. Like, the idea with the monsters is that every character has a unique trait. Waka throws his bow, but he has high precision, so he can hit flying enemies. Flying enemies have really high evasion, so you can't hit them. And the elements, you have to hit them with elemental spells, or because they're basically immune to physical damage. Armored enemies, you have to hit them with Auron, because Auron has armor piercing on his big sword. You know, you get the idea. But the thing is, it doesn't really matter, because eventually it's really easy to just give all characters armor piercing, for example. And then you can just kill all enemies. So it doesn't matter. And even further, the mechanics don't really matter, because you can always switch in the character. So the only thing it does that, like, you can't hit a bird with anyone other than Waka is that you have to press the switch button, select Waka, and then press attack. So it doesn't really do anything. It's just more tedious. And but furthermore, in Final Fantasy X, where's my fucking crafting table? It's up there. Alright. To level up, because each character, like, all the characters are in combat, always. Except that you have 3 characters in the back row and you have 3 characters in the front row. And the back row characters are kind of not in the battle, but they're still there. And to get XP, a character has to do something. And what that results in is that every single battle, you have to use an ability that does nothing. Like cast Cure, cast a buff, steal. Like, do something that doesn't kill the enemies with every character before you kill them. Otherwise, your entire team cannot level up. And if you don't level them up, then this whole system that they have of, like, Waka having to kill birds doesn't work. Because then Waka is low level. So you have to do this for every single battle. And like I said, the encounter rate is insane. So every single battle is, like, super excruciating if you want to keep your characters level. So the true way to do this is to just you make every character Waka and Auron so that they have armor piercing and they have, like, they can't miss. So that way you don't have to do any of the mechanics in the game. Because you can make every character Auron, because the grid system lets you just make any character. So you just make all the characters Auron, because he is the best character in the game by far. So you have to press these silly buttons. Do I have more die right? Die right. Die right. Die right. Sword. Die right. Bricks. Die right. And the worst thing is that you can't really play the game normally either, because the enemies always die in one hit. Like, that's why you can't attack with the characters. That's why you have to use useless buffs or cures on your characters. Because if they attack an enemy, that enemy will most likely die, unless it has a resistance against that character's, like, type. Like if you attack an armored enemy with Titus or something, like, he won't do that much damage. But otherwise, the enemies always die in one hit. So it's like this super tedious, fucking useless trash grind that you just have to slog through. And none of it is any challenging. You don't take any damage. It doesn't matter at all. Every turn you have to use something with 6 characters. It's just terrible. And even so, the game is still so poorly balanced that once you get to Seymour, you most likely have to grind. Because you don't have enough levels, even if you've done this the entire time. And that's where the grid system comes in. The grid system is total dog shit. Because it doesn't really do anything. Diorite. The only thing it does is that you can customize your characters, right? But the customization is... It's not real customization. It's literally just the character can encroach on another character's archetype. So, especially if you're playing with... There are like 2 types of grids. You can pick... Whoa! You can pick an advanced grid, or you can pick the basic grid. And the difference is just that in the advanced grid, the character... or you start at a position that is more open. You can go and be whichever character you want, with every character. So it's a lot easier to make every character Auron and be OP that way. So that's what you do. But that's what the customization is. It's just you are making one character another character. So the characters don't really have proper identity anymore, because any character can just be any character. But what it also means is that you have no... Like, first of all, it doesn't add any depth, because you're just like walking along a road. Like, it's not deep at all. It doesn't add anything. But what it also does is you have no clue how strong your character is. You have no metric for how strong your character is, for where you are. So if you get to Seymour and you die, and you can't beat him because he's too strong, what do? You grind. But how much do you grind? Like, if this was a typical Final Fantasy system, you would just have levels, right? But now you don't. Like, you just get points, and you spend those points on getting like 100 health. But this doesn't give you any kind of metric for how much stronger you might be compared to the... like, how strong you were before. Like, you can't just gain like, oh, I've gained 5 levels now, okay. That's like a decent metric for knowing how strong you are. Like, you don't know when you gain 5 levels. It's impossible. Unless you have like a really rock hard solid grip on how the stats work. Like, yeah, I've gained 10 strength now or whatever. Or I've gained 100 defense. That means that now I can beat Seymour, like... So the game is like... It just becomes impossible to read if you ever get stuck as well. And again, the combat system is the same, so there's like nothing that matters. But it does have a nice summon system. I like the summon system. You just summon the summon and then he has a bunch of attacks and you can nuke stuff with him. It's kind of nice. And yeah, see, the status effect thing is a very, very core issue as well. Because you have to understand that the status effect spells, while they are there in your inventory, the only reason they are in your inventory is for legacy reasons and because they can. And when I say legacy reasons, this is because it's based on D&D. So in D&D, as a tabletop game, you might have had like a poison spell, or you might have had a sleep spell, or whatever. And those might have served a purpose there as a role-playing game. But here, as a simplification of D&D, wizardry, and then they've taken wizardry and simplified wizardry even further. Not that much, but it is still simplified, or it's made more palatable. And so now you have like poison and sleep and like all these status effects, but they're not meant to be used by the player. They're meant to just exist as status effects for the player to deal with. So they're basically monster attacks, but they are given to the player because why not? Like you put the spells in the game, like you just give it to the player. But if you notice, if you look at Final Fantasy 1, you don't really have these spells for the most part. Like you pretty much just have damage and cures and heal spells and buff spells in Final Fantasy 1. But later on, they start adding more of these dog shit, you know, buff spells that don't really do anything at all. Do we have more cobblestone? We have plenty of cobblestone. And that's just because it's just possible. Like, they can just do that. But even if they were useful, you can't balance them. They are unbalanceable. Because the only way you can do it is because it's using a mana system. The only thing you can do is you can use the ability. So what do you do with it? Like, either you just limit the damage so that, like, poison is just it does as much damage as using fire or something, and certain enemies are weak to it or whatever. But the way it's done is it has a percentage chance to land, and that's gonna be like 30%, maybe 70. But even if it is 70%, that's a potentially wasted turn in a game where you could have used Fire 3 instead, and the enemy would have died in literally 1 or 2 turns. So there's no point in using it. And in certain cases, you can use it on bosses. On certain bosses that are specifically vulnerable to poison, for example, you can use poison on them. In Final Fantasy VII, there are a lot of monsters that are, or bosses that are good to poison, I think. But you have to know that. Like, that's the problem. You have to know this boss is weak to poison, because otherwise, every single time you use poison, it's wasted. Like, it's just like a gamble to get pretty much the same effect as just using a damage spell. So you can't have a chance-based status effect, because it's retarded, because a turn is so valuable. So, like, the only real way to do it is to, like, make it a passive chance when you attack or something like that. There it kind of works. But because if you make it always work, and you have spells like insta-kill or whatever, like that won't work at all. And an insta-kill spell is just, it just doesn't make sense to use, right, for the most part. But, like, you could make a sleep spell be somewhat useful, to be honest. But it's the fact that it's all based on mana only. That means that they have to have a certain baseline strength that has to be on par with all other abilities. And the problem there is that how do you balance poison then? Like you either make it always hit and do the same damage as fire, but what do you have now? You just have another element. That's all you have, really. So now you just have certain enemies are weak to poison, and then you just use poison. It's just a fire spell, pretty much. Or or you give it a mischance. That's what they do. They make it. Sometimes they make it strong, but they give it a mischance. And can I use purified water here? Okay. Okie doke. But if you give it a mischance, then you don't want to use it, because it's a percentage chance to do the same thing as something else, more or less. But it has a percentage chance of wasting a turn. And that's why, when it comes to JRPGs, I always opt for, or I always argue for some kind of cooldown system. Because if you have a cooldown system, then you can have an ability, and you can give it a function that always works. But you can balance it by making it have limited availability. And then you can just have, this is poison. It applies poison. Or see this and that many turns or something. Alright, this is full. Because mana systems are just... They're not good enough. It doesn't matter. The thing is, that's all fluff. It doesn't actually affect. And that's what I always try to argue. That classes, specializations, stats are all trash. Like, the only thing that they do is kind of change how, like, the game... Like how you do damage, pretty much. Like that's how it changes, more or less. And it's not a game mechanic. It's not a real gameplay mechanic. When you design a system, you have to think about like what is this system without those kind of things. Remove stats entirely from the equation. And that's how you have to design a game. Because otherwise, you basically just get a dice roll simulator. Like, stats aren't a real mechanic. Stats are... They're like a... They're like an artifact from tabletop games. And the reason you have stats in a tabletop game is to simulate reality. Do I really need to widen this shit? Why am I widening it so much? Because this is that wide. Yeah, alright. Fine. Fine. And in a game, that can have a purpose, but often it doesn't. Like, even in an RPG, like Final Fantasy, you don't actually need to have strength, necessarily, for a character to define, like, how strong their attacks are. You can literally just give them attacks that do this and that. if you want. That's one way to approach it. It's one way I like to approach it personally. Because I don't think weapons and equipment and stats, they don't do anything. Those are like an attachment that you can add if you want your game to have a little bit more flair, basically. But it doesn't. It's not a real system. So for example, you can have a completely statless system, and you just have a character, and you just give it a bunch of different attacks that just do things. You can have like a character with a basic attack that doesn't really do much. Maybe it just does damage. That's just his basic attack. But it has a certain like damage value that character has. And he can have... Maybe he has another attack that doesn't have a cooldown that... Or maybe this is another character whose basic attack like applies a bleeding effect or something. This is the way I kind of like thinking about it. In terms of like internal synergy for the character. Like maybe your character's basic attack applies bleeds. Now this is now... The reason for this is because that's what his kit is going to sort of like revolve around. So maybe he has that, and maybe he has another attack that has a low cooldown, maybe like 2 turns or something. That does more damage against enemies with bleeding, for example. Or maybe it causes enemies that has bleeding to like make their bleed stronger or something like that. These are just examples. You can like try to make sense of them logically, some like whatever way you want, or design something as thematically as you like. But like you can make wizard characters like that. Maybe your character has... That's what I was doing for my original JRPG project. I made my character, or my wizard, have a water bubble type spell, and what that spell did was for X amount of turns it would lock an enemy in a water bubble. And what it also did was you also had a lightning strike effect, or a lightning strike attack that would do more damage against enemies that are either in the water bubble or like has a status effect that water applies, for example. So you get bonus damage there. So then you would want to let the bubble run out its course, and then before it ends, you want to use your lightning attack to get bonus damage on the enemy that you just CC'd for 3 turns, for example. That's one way to do it. But in general, mana systems are really difficult to work with if you want to have any kind of expanded skill system where the skills kind of just function within themselves and have, you know, strengths and weaknesses in that sense, where like maybe you have a skill that stuns for a turn or something. Like if you have a skill that stuns for 1 turn, you're basically just stunning yourself, right? Because you're wasting your turn to stun another character. But maybe that stun has an extra effect if some, like, a caster is using a spell, for example, but hasn't cast it yet. Like maybe that makes it stun for 3 turns or something. But if you have a mana system, all abilities have to be homogenized. Because the only thing that can limit how strong they are... What is going on here? Oh no, did I fuck something up? I fucked this up. The only thing that can limit how strong an ability is how much mana it costs. And the only thing that really changes is how many healing items do you have to use between combat. So it doesn't really limit you other than... Like, if you look at Chrono Trigger, for example, Chrono Trigger has normal tech, double tech, and triple tech skills, where you can combine two characters and they do a certain attack, or you combine all three and they do like a big AoE attack or whatever. Completely meaningless system. It doesn't do anything. It's just cool. That's it. But it doesn't actually do anything, because the only thing it boils down to is if you use Chrono and you use Luminaire, which is his strongest ability, it costs X amount of mana and it does Y amounts of damage. Now the question is, how mana efficient is it? Is this the most damage I can do for my mana? Or is my triple tech the most damage I can do for my mana? And if the answer is triple tech, then you use triple tech every single turn. If the answer is double tech, then you use that double tech every single turn. If the answer is Luminaire, you use Luminaire every single turn. Because that's all it boils down to. How much damage can I do for how much mana? And if you have like stuns and abilities like that, they have to fulfill a purpose within the game's game loop. And if that stun is just like, oh, you stun the enemy for 3 turns, but it just costs mana, why would you press anything else? You wouldn't. And there are games that work like that. If you look at Divinity Original Sin 2, that game works like that. Now, if I remember right, it does have cooldowns. However, it has another mana system, which is called arrows. So, if you've played Divinity, you might have some idea of what I'm talking about. But basically, in Divinity, you have knockdown arrows. And knockdown arrows only work on enemies that have their armor stripped. So you have to get through their physical armor first, and then the fight is over. Like, as long as you have knockdown arrows, you knock down the boss every single turn, and he can't do anything. Every single boss in the entire game, except for the last boss, pretty much. You just chain knock down them until he's dead, and they can't play the game. Which is also why I think it's a piece of shit. But that's just me, I guess. So, mana and resource systems, they just generally don't work. What you have to do is, you have to have some kind of resource that's more limited and regenerative. So, for example, if we go back to Trails in the Sky, Trails in the Sky actually almost has a good system, which I've already talked about. But if the craft system was just you build craft points by attacking enemies or using spells, doing damage, taking damage, and then you can use your CP abilities. And that was it. And you just had a super gauge next to that. That would actually be a decent system. Because then you could have abilities with limited usage, which means you can make them stronger and more situational, because you can only use them like every 3 turns or something. but it's still a little bit too limited because it's still just limited by CP, but that's still a cooldown because it's a resource you can regenerate by acting, and that means that if you have a higher CP cost on something, then that ability has a longer cooldown, right? Because you have to waste more turns to get to that level. But it also, since you have one universal cooldown, basically, that still means that if your most costly ability is, let's just do this. If your most costly ability is your highest damage ability, then there's no reason to use any other ability. And that's why I think cooldowns are vital for a turn-based system. I don't really know any other way to do it other than maybe have some kind of charges, but that's also a little bit limiting. A charge system, a limited charge system can kind of work to some degree. Because then if you just replenish them every fight and you make every fight be a little bit more rare, then you can have longer fights and you can make these charges be limited use per encounter and be a little bit more strategic. Because you have to, you know, you have to choose when you use the charge on this ability. Still think it's just a bootleg cooldown system, but you know. Armor system reduced D2 to pure damage builds? You mean Diablo 2? Single type physical / magical builds as well as going for both effectively halves your DPS. Yeah, that's also a big problem, but that's oh, Divinity, right. I even forgot that I talked about that. Yeah, the armor system, yeah. You have to have 4 mages or 4 physical characters. There is a mod. I actually kind of want to replay the game with the mod. Because there is a mod that combines the systems, or combines the armors, and just turns it into damage resistance. And I kind of want to try it with that mod again. I still didn't like the story really, but at least the game might be a little bit more fun with that. But I don't really want to play it that much, so But me and Kibs are pretty close when it comes to our ideas on design, I think. Which I'm pretty glad about. So I am sure we'll manage to do something that's interesting. Like my core like design philosophy for how a character should work in an RPG, in a turn-based RPG, is that if the character is solo, there should still be choice. Right? Like if you have one character fighting another character, there should be choices. The heat system is just one part of it. But to be honest, I've kind of focused on programming and art. So I don't really want to talk about our systems too much, because I'm not sure what Kibs has said. You know, I'm not sure what they have come up with since then. but I have tons of ideas myself that that I'll show Kibbs in practice, because it's a lot easier to do that, right? Like you just show this is how it works. Do you like it or not? Then just talk about it forever, and then Kibbs forgets about it. Because he has the memory of a goldfish. But that's why I'm so excited to, like, I'm actually, and I'm genuinely excited to program game mechanics. Like, I've been waiting for that's literally why I started becoming a game developer in the first place. Like, I am a designer at heart. I'm not a pixel artist. I'm not a programmer. I'm a designer. I just happen to be able to do everything because I wanted to make a game on my own. And I have played, like, my entire life I have done nothing but play video games. Like, every single day, done nothing but play video games. I played, like... I had a DVD burner during the PS2 era as well. Like, I had a CD burner during the PS1 era. So, like, I played almost everything. At least in the genres I enjoyed. I didn't play, like, car games or tank games or whatever. No. So when it comes to JRPGs, there are very few that I haven't tried, and if I haven't, they are most likely incredibly super dog shit. Obviously so. So I think I have some experience to know what I'm talking about. I still think MMOs are the best RPGs. Like, just when it comes to single-player RPG systems, MMOs are the strongest when it comes to the gameplay. And when I say gameplay, I mean something very specific. I don't mean quests, I don't mean running around doing dog shit, grinding mobs. I mean specifically the, like, internal gameplay loop that you as a player, like, input into the game when you're fighting something. That's gameplay. Then there's context for what you do the gameplay in. I don't think walking around pressing quest buttons is gameplay. That's just, like, basic functionality. What the hell do we need now? We need more... no, we need the black bricks. This is a very strong stream. All we've done is bitch and built a small corridor. Okay, so... it still needs to be widened. No? This is 1, 2, 3. Okay, this one is good. But here we have 1, 2, 3. So this one still needs to be widened. But there are a very small handful of games, like I said, that in the JRPG, what I would classify a JRPG genre, that break the mold a little bit and make things a little bit more interesting. But there are very, 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 very few. At least, especially that I can think of. One is Grandia, as I mentioned already. Otherwise, it's pretty much a traditional JRPG. got useless equipment systems that don't mean anything. You find random items now and then and equip it, and it does nothing except give you more damage. See, items that you find in that manner are like they're literally just a level up in a chest, and that's why I don't really like them, because it doesn't mean anything. It's just there to fulfill like fluff expectations, really. Like, it's just for flavor. And I don't... To some degree, I have respect for flavors, just systems that are just flavor, really. But at the same time, if at all possible, I would prefer that system to have function and not just flavor. But when it comes to equipment, it's kind of difficult, to be honest. Like, how do you make a meaningful equipment system? You'd basically have to make Diablo or something. Where you have randomized items and you can like manage them and like, determine this item is better than that item because it has this and that stat. You know? And additionally, if you have a level system in your game, then you can barely do that as well. Because if you have a level-based system, that means that items kind of have to scale up to be able to be relevant, right? So you find a low-level sword, it gives you +8 attack. And then you find a sword later when you're like level 30 and it gives you +40 attack, you know? Otherwise, the values won't be higher than the previous ones and it won't really do much. But also, if you make items that has... Like, you make a sword that has a specific special functionality. For example, you make a... Let's look at Castlevania, for example. In Castlevania, there are typically tons of different weapon types. But they're all dogshit trash, and are completely irrelevant. Because they're not endgame tier. There's gonna be another weapon that has 255 attack, that's just going to be superior, purely because the stats are higher. And 99% of the weapons in the game that have some attack pattern that you like, or it has a special ability that's really cool and you like. Completely useless, because it's a level 20 weapon, and you need the level 60 weapon to be relevant. And that's also why I hate levels. Levels are also stupid and don't do anything. But at the same time, if you don't have levels, it's really difficult to make a game that... Or rather, levels are a very, very powerful crutch for games that don't have mechanics. Because you can level up. And it feels good to level up. Like, no one can deny leveling up feels good. And it feels like your character is progressing. But he's not. It doesn't matter. If you scale down all the enemies to the same level, and you just didn't have levels, it would be the same game. You would just not get a little every 10 minutes. Nothing would change at all. So the only real function levels have in general in any RPG is psychological, and 2 is to create a path for the player. It's a path, and it's a dynamic difficulty system. But like if you're playing WoW, for example, the levels determine... Holy shit, that's a lot of fucking zombies right there. I need to make some torches. But the levels are a way to funnel you in certain directions there. And typically RPGs are not open world, right? So there it kind of doesn't matter in Final Fantasy games. Like there the level system is just so that you can grind if a boss is too hard, because there are no gameplay mechanics. Right, so the only thing that exists is your stat values and enemy stat values. So you can increase your stat values if you can't overcome the enemy at the moment. That's why they exist there, really. Torches. Let's see. We have sticks there, but we need charcoal, which we barely have any of. Torch. And that's why generally I don't really advocate for level systems. Because they don't really... Fuck is that? Oh, it's an Enderman! Because they don't do anything. And there are other ways to approach things. You can still level up the player. But level systems introduce an absolute host of issues. First of all, it makes balancing ridiculously difficult, because you don't just have... Yes, exactly. If you have a leveling system where you scale your stats, your chance to hit, everything like that, if you make an RPG and you have side quests, your game is broken. It cannot function properly. You don't have real choices. Like you have three choices. I'm waiting for that guy to disappear. I'm super scared. He's never gonna disappear, is he? Maybe if I go outside somewhere, he might disappear then. Okay, that's why he's not disappearing. This is raining outside. But like, if you design the game XP, because there is an XP curve, right? If you design the game so that you you don't need to do side quests. Like the main story is doable without doing any side quests. Then that's fine, you can do the main quest. But for anybody who likes the game and likes to explore the game and do the side quests, the game is now trash. Unless you don't really care about the gameplay. That is on YouTube now for some reason, okay. But because... Hold on. No, he's still there. Because you have side quests, if those side quests reward XP, or even money, honestly, because again, getting better gear is a level up. If those level you up, then the game becomes trivial. And then all of the game's the main quest is supposed to be the bread and butter of the game, and it's supposed to be where all the interesting encounters are, and all the big bosses and all of that. And if side quests are designed to be optional, then if you do them, the main quest becomes trash, because you're gonna go in and then you're gonna like one-shot the last boss or something. Happens way too often. Second choice, make side quests semi-optional. Like, yeah, maybe you have to do some side quests because your levels are gonna be too low. It's still weird, because some people just don't want to do side quests. I don't really like side quests, because I don't like dog shit in games that are not relevant to the plot of the game. Like, I like a red thread. That's what we call it in Sweden, a red thread in the story that connects the beginning to the end. So there's a red thread that you're following. That's like, this is the pertinent part of the game, really. And if there are side quests, I want them to be related to that. Because if it's just like sure, it can be world building, which can be fine to some degree, but at the same time, I want that world building to be related to the main plot and the main story. And related to main characters. Like, it shouldn't be completely unrelated dog shit. But now, if your side quests are useless trash, then I don't want to do them. But if they are good side quests and are pertinent to the story, then I want to do them. So even if they are optional there, now I'm forced to do either dog shit or I'm gonna do all of it. So I'm having a bad time regardless, because they're semi-optional, so I still have to do some to be able to properly proceed in the game. And if I do all of them, I'm gonna be overpowered again. Even if it's to a lesser degree this time. But it's probably not gonna be to that much of a lesser degree if you have an XP curve. That means that you need more and more XP the higher you are. And those quests are all like a certain level, and they give you a certain amount of rewards, because then you won't level up that much from them after a certain point anyway. So it's like, it doesn't really mitigate anything. And then you can make it so that side quests are mandatory. That's Trails in the Sky on certain difficulties. You just have to do everything. And now you have a total chore of a game. That's why I hate side quests. And I hate levels. And I hate XP. So, is he still there? He might be not sure. Let's give it a go. Let's put some torches down. But, because you can do it in so many different ways. You can have the game be more skill-based. And that can mean either literally player skill, or it can mean characters expand horizontally. Or you know, you have a talent tree where you can build up a little bit of power now and then. But then you can limit like when the player gets stronger a lot more. You can do that with levels too if you want. But for example, you can give the player talent points or a level or whatever only on certain at certain points. So if you defeat this boss or you pass like chapter 4 or whatever, then you become level 5. Or if after you get past this point, you know, you get talent points that you can spend. So it doesn't become about grinding. Or you just play Roblox? Yeah, you can play Roblox. Play Roblox all you want, dude. Pretty popular game, especially in Eastern Europe. Yeah, this needs to be expanded. I don't have any pickaxes on me. But we have a... Yeah, YouTube is terrible. Like the delay is insane. Um... Yeah. But also when it comes to equipment, for example, it's... Like I said, it's kind of hard. If you make some kind of inventory system with items with randomized rolls and stuff like that, then I think it makes some sense to have equips. But otherwise, if it's just like in this chest you get item with +5 strength, and then you get item with +10 strength, like just dump it. Absolute dog shit. Like in Baldur's Gate or whatever, like the only point of being able to equip different weapons is just an RP reason, because like that's it. Like you can roleplay. There's no other purpose to anything really. Not really strategically, not really. You find a +1 scimitar, and then you find a +2 scimitar. Cool. Clay ball. Is it still like cloudy or something? I can't tell. Yeah, it's raining. I'm too scared to go outside. We should put some iron doors down, I guess. I'm not really sure how to do this. I kind of wanted it to maybe be something like this for the time being. I still don't really like this, but something along those lines, and then put a big lever. I didn't know it worked just like that. But I want it to be connected to all of them. Yeah, I'm gonna stop the stream soon anyway. Yeah. Yeah, thanks for dropping by, dude. How does this work? Can I not make this lever open all of these at once? Come on. Apparently I do have to write a ray tracer first. Okay, so you can make it open that. But I can't make it... I can't make it affect multiple. Can I? What if I put it there? Now that doesn't affect anything. But if I do that, then that's affected. That sucks shit. Now none of them is connected. It has to be like that. Okay. Wow, that is such a dogshit system. Putting a redstone torch under a door? But that works at least. Now, if only they all opened. They don't open in the same way. That triggers me. Do I really have to have this there? Is there no better way to... Does it have to be on the ground too? Can't put it on the wall. Redstone torch. Oh. So, how does that work? Yeah, I thought so, but I'm afraid that it's gonna be affected by this wall here, but I was gonna put walls in between here anyway, like this. Maybe that'll fix that anyway. Be like a proper gubbe. Okay, so if I put a redstone torch there, we put that there. Nope. It's the wrong. There. And the door there. And what am I supposed to power? I'm mostly perplexed why you know them in the first place. Connect to the torch under the ground. Okay, so I have to... dig this up. can go up blocks, but I tried. Does it work like the railroad? Yeah, okay. It's a railroad. But this is gonna need to be like this somehow then. Won't it? Can't even get out of here. How do I attach it to the... It would have to be like that. Doesn't seem to give a crap. Doesn't seem to work. The redstone torches, I know otherwise that the redstone torches on their own power nearby things. So maybe you can't turn it off using those. Or like, I mean, maybe they just power the redstone on their own. Because that's what it seems like. If I get rid of that and that, now it's disabled. So they're powering the redstone themselves. And maybe there's something else you can use to kind of power it like that. This does not seem to be the case. The block the torch is on. How am I supposed to do that? Dig down? This is the worst system I've ever seen. We should be playing Terraria instead. But at least it works now. That was weird. Holy shit, how convoluted was that? Alright. Well, it works. Nope, that's the wrong block. Thanks for the help, though. So, what does that mean? This looks like it's like the best I can manage here. Maybe I can place that here. No, we can't do that either. If that'll break that. The hell, I can crack these? I didn't want to do that. Well, at least it works. Now, here, I want that to be smooth blocks. Now my gums are swelling up. Yeah, you shouldn't overdo it. Not good. Hmm. But that also makes it really hard to like combine them. Because I was thinking maybe I can have two doors on top of each other, but that won't work then. Unless the doors themselves like conduct. They don't? Sat knows all the strats. Did the door just disappear? But yeah, see, they do still open in different ways. That's probably because I did that. Now then. No! They still open in different ways! What the fuck, dude? Fuck off! But I placed it! Like, I placed them all the same now. Oh, it's good. You can aim them in a corner of the block when you place it. Right, now they all open from the right. I see. Alright, we've got... made a little bit of progress. We built a large hall. We dissed every single game under the sun. And almost nothing happened. So I'm not sure how high I want this to be in roof. The thing is, making the roof higher is a giga chore. That's the problem. But what I wanted to do was I wanted to make this be... I wanted like a valve. Like it's a cathedral, kind of. Up there, maybe. And then here it can go up a little bit and then down there. And I want to have stained glass here. I'm not sure what it should look like. But I want some stained glass, that's for sure. We'll have to figure that out next time. Which I'm not sure when that'll be, but we'll see. Anyhow, that will be it for today. Yep. More programming tomorrow, as usual, and then we'll see. So, until next time, thanks for hanging. Have a good night.